Somebody put a comment on my video a couple of days ago saying, you want distance from a woman? You should try Ariya Jutanugarn. And I hope I'm saying that name correctly. And they added, she hits a 2-iron 290 yards, to which I was a little taken back. Said, hey, that sounds like a good video, let me hunt this down. So I checked out her LPGA stats, and it seems like every year she was falling in the 250 to the 260 range. And I said, man, either she's hitting an illegal club or something's wrong. So I started to look at her swing a little bit more. But what I did find out, she probably hits the purest 2-iron I have ever seen. So today we're going to look at her cause and effect on that 2-iron, and let me just tell you, it is a thing of beauty. Se me capisci, scommetto che stai ridendo del mio tentativo di parlare d'italiano. Okay, so the more I watch this swing, the more I am in awe of this motion. From down the line with the 2-iron, we will see how perfect of a motion this is. She hits every single line that I look for when I look at your swings, when you send it to me on Sunday for our cause and effect videos, just to see where your swings go and how we migrate that and how we utilize what you have. But man, I think she is the only one I have ever diagnosed from down the line where she hits every single line perfectly. So to me, this is the perfect swing. From this line though, if you look at this motion, there's so much sequencing going on here. There's so much angular momentum. There's great footwork. Everything is always revolving around that center, more specifically right there at impact. Look how the wrists don't roll over like most of us do at home, because we're rolling over to help that club face square up, because somewhere in our downswing things have been out of whack, and that's probably stemming as far back as your setup. So we're going to look at her setup, and by the way, she has a perfect setup, coincidentally. So you can see how a great setup can lead you to have a decent swing. But look at this impact position. Let's go one more time right down to impact. And let's take a look at that right hand action, specifically right before we get to the golf ball. So if we back up to here, we can see that she's still hanging on to this angular momentum that we're always trying to talk to you about as a student. You would like to, wherever you set your wrists at the top, be able to hold that for as long as possible. Now, the human's hands and wrists are not strong enough to keep holding on. Eventually, they are going to release on their own as your body develops rotation and increases the hand speed. So hand speed is very important here. So the key thing we want to look for with the hand speed is how it stays relative to the chest. And we're going to do it in Barney Purple. So there's the center of the chest. So it goes right through the center of the chest. Now, as she goes down through it, now you take a look. She's starting to release that angle. But the key thing is that hand speed is keeping up with the center of her chest. It's the outside spoke of a wheel on your bike. The outside spoke is going to move much faster. So the faster you turn the inside, that outside better move just as fast, so you're up in somebody's water. And I don't want to say what it really means, because this is a children's show, but you get the point. Things have to move relative. Now, as we strike that golf ball, now that angle gets released naturally. Guess where her hands are? Still connected to the center of her hub. As she strikes through the golf ball, watch the right hand. It doesn't necessarily go over as much as under, and you'll see it once we connect her again to the center. You will see it right there. See that right hand go more under as opposed to releasing, and that is the correct release instead of the roll, I should have said. But look at this again. The hands stay relative to the center of the spoke. There's only one way to do this: maintaining your posture in the downswing and using your footwork effectively. So let's go look at that down the line. And man, I can't wait to show you this, because this, to me, I'm going to put this on a limb. This is probably the best swing in golf history. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. You're probably going to say I'm wrong, but you know what? This is my show. She's got the best swing in golf history. Okay, so I went ahead and drew the lines for you so you don't have to go through that whole thing. As usual, Barney Purple is our lower plane line and that upper plane line. Remember, upper plane line is just as important as the lower plane line, because it shows you where your hands should set naturally if you can maintain your turn and tilt ratios. We've got Ivan Red on the back to hold our posture, and we've got Mellow Yellow cutting right through the spine to help us see any spine loss, which, let me just give you a spoiler, ain't gonna happen. And just for giggles, let's put out that Trump orange line, which is the shoulder tilt line, and you can see it's slightly lower than that secondary plane line, and this is all for a reason. So before we get started, let's just take a look at this setup. This setup is very athletic, very centered, very balanced. We tell that because we split the difference. There's the center of the arches of the heels straight up to the sky, and look what happens. Everything meets accordingly. So far in the 1.618 golden ratio website, she's hit every single one of these setup checkpoints, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you will. And why is that important? Because you need to be centered when you start your swing. If you're fighting balance when you start your swing, what do you think your swing's going to do? Your swing's going to go with that momentum. So let's say you're very toe-based, your arms are going to start out going more out and away, so then you might develop a compensation by either shifting your weight back to avoid that, or by pulling your arms inside as your body goes forward. So everything stems from your grip alignment, set of posture. Ball position's perfect, arms are hanging down somewhat naturally. There's a slight little reach, but that's okay because she could have shorter arm length versus torso length. It doesn't matter. What we're looking at now is a very, very solid setup. So we're going to keep all these lines here and work with what we have. Let's go from the first part of the takeaway. Look at that. That is just unbelievable. The hands go right down lower Barney purple because she is maintaining her tilting. If her tilting was raising, the hands will be higher. If it starts to get more down, the hands will be lower. And along that, look at that club. That club is sitting pretty. It goes right through the hands. It disappears in that small circle. So if you want to look at your swing at home, you're going to take a green circle. It has to be green because that'll give you 5 more yards. And you want to draw where the circle covers your hands and the club head. The tighter you can get that circle, the more connected you are, the more wider you are, and you need to be on that lower plane line to ensure you're taking the widest turn that you possibly can. Now keep that in mind because it's within your limitations. So if you can't get on that lower plane line correctly, check your setup. If your setup looks okay, then it's something in your body. You're probably spending too much time like me typing away and you don't stretch. So get your stretching working. On another note, we're going to take a look at where her club face is. It is slightly open, and that's okay. I've seen it slightly closed, neutral, open, it doesn't matter. At this point, your hands and arms will develop naturally, and they're developing naturally based on this position. Let's go further back. Now we're going to take a look. Once we've established that width, look at this position here. Chest is facing us. Hips are holding that rotation, giving a lot of tension, a lot of torque build up. And the hands, where are the hands? Just like we saw that face on view earlier, they're connected right to the center of her core. So she is truly rotating, which is why she hit those lines right off the bat. So as we get up to the second plane line, watch what happens. Look at that butt of the club. It is perfectly on the center line of her setup. Now we know she is truly centered. She's not rocking back or forth. Look at her left arm. It actually sits. Where does it sit? Secondary plane line. It is hitting everything perfect. So this is all stemming from great setup. Now we take a look at our patented triangle check, and let's take a look at where those hands should be going. Now, ideally, they would like to go right down the middle of that triangle in the initial downswing to help her. And yes, let's take a look at Trump Orange. We see that her shoulders have tilted perfectly relative to her spine angle. So far, she's hit every single one of these lines. And the only reason we have these lines is to see how her swing works around her setup. So it's working perfectly around that setup. Let's take a look at the first move. What do you see those hands? Look at those hands. They go right down that center of the triangle. Bing! 1.618 bonus. But what's really cool is if you take a look at this, let's go and draw another green line, because this is something that's really cool I want you to look at. Everybody's talking about getting shallow. Remember, that shallow word is so overused. You don't want to be shallow with an iron. What's the point of being shallow with an iron? You want to strike down in it. So watch the grip of the club follow that line. Look at that. Just follows that line. So she sets her hands and she's going to take a straight line straight down to the golf ball. Now her club will get slightly inside of that line, right about there. But look, it's parallel. It's sitting perfect. So it's going to ride all the way down. So she is able to get that club right in that tiny little slot that she has formed for herself. It's nowhere near her original setup. But remember, that's because of the droop of the club and the way you have to tilt and turn and swing down in it. Now, what allows her to swing down in it is that shoulder tilt. Right now, it is perfect. I've seen people when they lose posture, when their shoulders get flatter. Now, when your shoulders get flatter, what do you think's naturally going to happen to your hands? Your hands are going to fall down quicker, and now you become very shallow, and that's trouble with an iron. So then you have to learn how to either manipulate your shoulders back out in front, and there comes steep, and there comes over the top, or you stay here and your hands have to do that. Now your hands are throwing too soon to try and get that club back out in front of you. So this is very, very important to keep that relationship of your turn and tilt. So let's go back down into impact. This is looking beautiful. Watch where the club goes. It goes again right through her hands. And we can see at this point, the club is not as open as you would think. It is slightly open. So that's where that release comes in. We see that right hand not really flick over. It releases and then goes under as her right shoulder keeps turning through to help her strike down on the golf ball. And we're going to go straight down to impact. Look at these lines. This is just poster child perfection against that back brace line. Weighting is going to the left side, back left heel. We are pushing up. We are receiving on the left side. We are still in our spine angle that we started with. We are moving down with our upper body and up with our lower body, which means we have to have what? A very strong core to keep them both together, to maintain your posture. So if you don't have a strong core, you are up that creek again. And the great thing is, look at all the spacing that she's given herself, her hands and arms, just to go through. There's no last second, I gotta hit this, and we start shaft humping and trying to throw our hands to make the contact, which a lot of us do. Most amateurs do have some sort of shaft humping going on, which is not ideal. But as she strikes a golf ball, she can still stay down. She gets adequate amount of turn and tilt, and now the upper body will catch up to the lower body. You see the lower body stopped turning already because it's transferred. It's coiled all that power right through her center, and her center now is delivering as well as her hands are releasing. And now we see that exit path. Look at that exit path. It is just parallel to where she set up originally. This is perfection. Now let's take a look at how much she tilts her shoulders, because this is a big thing. As she strikes a golf ball 1 or 2 frames after, let's go to that frame there because that's easier to see the shoulders. And let's do a quick shoulder tilt check. She's at 60. What was she at the top? And she is right there. We are looking 37. So she still gets 23 degrees of tilting and rotation. That's the key. And you'll see that her tilting doesn't come initially. She makes sure to get that right shoulder to work around, which means that she stays on her plane. She swings down as she strikes it. Now, boom, now the tilt comes at impact and past impact, which is key because that keeps your arms moving straighter through impact. You don't want to have this last second flip to get that club exiting way left, because that's some serious issues. But I hope that did help you. I want you to save the swing somewhere in your library, because this is the person that I've seen hit these numbers and these lines perfectly. To me, this is the perfect golf swing right now, best on the planet. Mark my words. Leave me a comment if you don't agree, or if you agree. Hope that helps you. I will see you next time. Don't forget, Sunday, submit your video to me. We go live right here, 6 o'clock p.m. PST. Other than that, have a good day. Fairways and greens.